Darkness had settled over the Blue Ridge Parkway as Caleb steered his car onto a desolate turnoff. Mist curled low across the asphalt, heavy with the scent of approaching rain. Serena sat angled toward him, her lips curved in a smug half-smile, as if she'd orchestrated this moment. Caleb's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. "Get out," he said, his voice sharp and practiced. "You need to learn your place." The words cut deeper for their calculated tone than their intent. I looked at my son, the boy I'd once nursed through fevers and guided through late-night homework, and saw only a stranger eager to cast me aside. I stepped onto the gravel, the crunch under my shoes loud in the silence. Serena leaned closer, whispering something triumphant as the car door slammed. The engine roared, tail lights glowing red through the drizzle as they vanished around the bend. Rain fell harder, cold drops stinging my coat. I stood still, refusing the panic they might have craved. Instead, I let the storm soak through me, my silence a shield. Headlights pierced the mist from behind an abandoned gas station. A black Ford truck rolled forward, steady and sure. Reed Dawson stepped out, hat tipped low. Calm as always. He'd been waiting, just as we'd planned. He opened the passenger door, and I climbed in, the worn leather seat grounding me. A faint smile crossed my lips. Caleb thought he'd stranded me, but he'd only set my plan in motion. Reed drove down the mountain in silence, wipers slicing through the rain. I pulled my damp coat tighter, the truck's hum steadying my pulse. In Asheville, neon lights flickered from a roadside motel, its vacancy sign buzzing. Reed parked near a unit reserved under my maiden name, Harrison. The room smelled of bleach and worn carpet, but it was a haven. Reed set his hat on the dresser, his eyes heavy with shared knowledge. "Told you he'd push it further?" he said softly. I nodded. Months earlier, strange charges had appeared on my account's repair bills I hadn't approved, signatures that weren't mine. When I questioned Caleb, he dismissed me with irritation. That's when I contacted Miriam Keats, an elder law attorney known for tackling tough cases. She urged me to document everything. Reed, Buncombe County's former sheriff and my late husband's friend, agreed to keep watch. At the motel's small table, I opened my phone and played the recording of Caleb's voice. "Walk home. 98 miles should teach you respect." The words echoed, cold and damning. Reed uploaded the audio to encrypted drives, handing me a flash drive, its metal cool in my palm. "Now it's safe," he said. Caleb thought he'd left me powerless, but he'd given me the evidence. I needed. Sleep eluded me in the motel's narrow bed. Memories unspooled in the dark. The storm outside mirroring quieter tempests I'd weathered. I thought of my Singer sewing machine, its hum filling our kitchen as I stitched dresses for Asheville's elite. My fingers raw to afford Caleb's school shoes. I skipped meals, claiming I wasn't hungry, so he could have seconds. When his Chapel Hill tuition arrived, I pawned my wedding ring, my husband's last gift, to cover it. Caleb thanked me absently, never asking how. Those sacrifices were my rhythm, unnoticed because they were constant. But Serena's voice changed the narrative. "Your mother clings to you," I'd overheard her say. "She helps to control you." Slowly, Caleb embraced her story, recasting my love as manipulation. I remembered a rain-soaked baseball game in Weaverville when he was 12. I stood in the downpour, shielding his duffel with my coat. When he ran off the field, drenched and grinning, he called me a drowned cat. We laughed together, my presence a given. Now, abandoned in the rain by that same boy grown cold, the memory ached. Serena's whispers had turned my sacrifices into chains. I faced the window, rain streaking the glass. Tomorrow, Miriam would have more papers. By morning, the storm had cleared. Miriam met me in her Pack Square office. Her desk cluttered with binders and a warm laptop. She slid a file forward. "These invoices were filed under your name," she said. "Roof repairs, HVAC work, foundation fixes over $30,000 for a house that needed none of it." Digital signatures mimicked mine but faltered in details. The S too sharp, the spacing off. "Forged," Miriam said. The payments led to a non-existent contractor. Then to Serena's failed Charlotte boutique. Caleb had approved every step, disguising theft as upkeep. Reed, who'd joined us, leaned back. Heard him at a Biltmore Village bar 6 months ago, bragging he was handling the old lady's assets. He said, his voice more sad than angry. The betrayal stung worse than the fraud my son boasting about dismantling my dignity. That afternoon, Jonah, Caleb's son, slipped into the motel lobby, eyes wide. Without a word, he handed me a note. "Dad says you don't matter." I don't believe him. My throat tightened. Caleb might have swallowed Serena's lies. But Jonah's quiet defiance showed some ties held fast. I tucked the note beside Miriam's files. A different kind of proof. That evening, I opened my sewing kit, its lining hiding a folded envelope. Inside was the original LLC agreement, drafted by my husband, granting me sole control of the bungalow and its land. Caleb's name was absent. I'd signed papers at his urging over the years, but this document was the truth. The next morning, Reed drove me to the Patton Avenue Bank. The clerk recognized my maiden name and led us to the vault. My husband's brass key unlocked a safe deposit box containing the notarized deed, a side letter affirming my authority, and his note, "Isoda, protect this. You'll need it more than anything someday." His foresight steadied me. Miriam certified copies, and I returned the originals. The papers wait now, a comfort. The house was mine. Caleb had only been an intruder. At the Buncombe County Courthouse, Miriam walked beside me, read a quiet shadow. Caleb and Serena sat at the respondent's table, her tailored blazer masking her tension, his jaw tight. Jonah sat behind them, head down, sneakers scuffing. The judge, her gray hair severe, called order. Miriam played the recording of Caleb's voice, its cruelty filling the room. Serena fidgeted. Caleb stared ahead. Miriam presented the forged invoices, the boutique transfers, and the deed. The judge's ruling was swift. Joint assets frozen. Property rights restored to me. A stay-away order issued against Caleb and Serena. Caleb slammed the table, muttering. Serena grabbed his arm, but he pulled away. Jonah's eyes met mine, a flicker of recognition. The gavel fell, and the room emptied. Reed guided me past Caleb's glare, Jonah trailing behind Serena. Outside, the autumn air was crisp, the victory a foundation for what came next. Miriam dug deeper, uncovering Serena's history, unpaid loans, creditor lawsuits, a denied guardianship petition for her aunt, driven by greed. Phone records showed her feeding Caleb lies, painting me as unstable. The district attorney called it elder abuse, opening an inquiry. Jonah visited the motel again, whispering, "She's scared." I heard her say, "If they find out, we're done." His loyalty was a lifeline. Back at the bungalow, Reed changed the locks while I reclaimed utilities and tax records. Jonah arrived with groceries, his shy smile a balm. "Feels right here," he said. I funded a college trust for him, a promise beyond the pain. Caleb pounded on the door one evening, shouting, "This is still my house." Reed blocked him, and I closed the door. The locks click final. The lawsuit moved fast. Serena settled, admitting to the fraud. Caleb violated the stay-away order twice. The second time hauled away in handcuffs under flashing lights. It wasn't victory, it was grief tempered by necessity. Jonah began spending weekends with me. Cooking, gardening, our silence, a growing bond. I started a community clinic at the senior center, sharing lessons on trusts and elder protection. The applause felt like sunlight. Rain tapped the porch as I held a coffee mug. The framed deed on the wall, a quiet declaration. Jonah studied at the kitchen table, his pencil steady. Reed handed me the brass key, saying, "You don't need this anymore." I pressed it back to him. The locks were mine, but the strength was my own. I stepped outside, the storms sent clean. Caleb thought he'd erased me, but I'd reclaimed my life, whole and unshaken.